When people tell you the inspirational story of Bill Gates, his talent and hard work, you really can't doubt his talent or hard work. But his real story is never told to the people. If you compare yourself to Bill Gates, like, if you were as talented and hardworking as Bill Gates, you still wouldn't have achieved what he has. Why do I say that? Let's find out. So, you were the richest man in the world for 20 years straight. Microsoft kept hitting record highs on Wall Street. You'd do anything to get more of the market share. And then, you became the youngest self-made billionaire, right? Yeah, in terms of earning it on my own. Bill's first steps in computing. The 1960s, when computers were as rare as unicorns and as big as a refrigerator. In 1967, young Bill Gates, then an 8th grader at Lakeside School in Seattle, got his first taste of computing when his school's Mothers Club used a rummage sale to buy a teletype model 33 ASR. This teletype was connected through phone lines to massive mainframe computers at big companies. So, Bill started spending hours trying to figure out the computer. He developed his first program on the computer. Fast forwarding to some years later, Bill Gates became the richest man in the world. He remained the richest person for about 20 years. Today, he's the 14th richest with a wealth of $109 billion. School years and early collaborations. Let's start at the beginning. The 12 years old, Bill Gates was studying at Lakeside School, a private institution in Seattle. At school, he had some friends who were equally passionate about computers: Kent Evans, Paul Allen, and Rick Weiland. The four of them started the Lakeside Programmers Group. He tried to use the computer outside the school as well. In Seattle, there was a small firm called the Computer Center Corporation that rented out computers by the hour, even though it costs about $40 an hour. A year later, in 1968, Bill and his friends started visiting there regularly. Realizing that the price was quite high, they began hunting for bugs in the system to get extra computer time without paying the fee. They discovered loopholes in CCC's operating system and exploited them to get more time on the machines. Of course, when they got caught, the store banned them. But by the next summer, CCC had a change of heart and decided to use these clever kids to help them find bugs in the system, turning their mischief into an opportunity for free access. During this time, Bill Gates learnt several programming languages like Fortran, Lisp, and others, which laid the technical foundation for his future. But soon, the small computer rental store they relied on went out of business, leaving Bill and his friends without a way to practice their skills. Not long after, they discovered a company in Portland called Information Sciences Incorporated. This company offered free computer time in exchange for developing a program, a payroll system that not only gave them access, but also taught them about taxes and payroll processing. By 1971, Bill and his best friend, Kent Evans, were asked by their school to create a program for generating class schedules. They worked diligently on it, but tragedy struck one weekend when Kent went hiking and tragically fell off a cliff. This heartbreaking loss shocked Bill, yet he refused to let it stop him, continuing his work with his friend Paul Allen. By the time Bill reached college in 1972, he and Paul had already taken their first entrepreneurial step by founding Trafo Data, a company aimed at processing traffic data using the Intel 8008 processor. Although the venture wasn't a smashing success, it provided them with invaluable lessons in running a business and understanding practical software development. Bill Gates' academic excellence. In 1973, Bill graduated from high school with an exceptional SAT score of 1,590 out of 1,600, earning him admission at Harvard, one of America's top universities. Meanwhile, Paul found college less engaging and soon moved to Boston to work with Honeywell Corporation. In 1974, following Paul's advice, Bill also started working at Honeywell. One day, as Paul was out, he noticed a copy of Popular Electronics at a magazine stall. The picture on the front page of the magazine was of the Altair 8800, the very first personal computer, powered by the Intel 8080 processor. Paul, who had been urging Bill for a while about how computer chips were getting smaller and faster, rushed over to show him the magazine. Inspired by this live example from a company called MITS, Bill and Paul contacted them and offered to write software in BASIC, the most popular programming language of that era. This opportunity set the stage for their future venture, which eventually evolved into Microsoft. So, the plan was to write software for the computer using BASIC. Paul had to move to another city for the project, while Bill made the bold choice to drop out of Harvard. Together, they built a version of BASIC and sold it to Altair. The Altair team was so impressed that they offered Paul a job, but by then, he was busy running his own consultancy. Their startup, originally called Microsoft, was later shortened to Microsoft. They landed several contracts, including deals with Texas Instruments and even a Japanese company. Major breakthroughs. However, their true breakthrough came when they provided the DOS operating system for IBM computers. While the Microsoft team was busy developing new software, they unveiled their first version of Windows in November 1983. Then, in March 1986, Microsoft went public with an IPO managed by Goldman Sachs. The shares were priced at $21 and jumped to $28 on day one, setting them on an unstoppable path. Later on, with products like Windows 98, Microsoft's software reached every corner of the globe. It's an incredibly inspiring story. A brilliant kid, passionate and willing to take risks, even dropping out of college to pursue his dream, builds a company that changes the world and eventually becomes the richest man on earth. If Bill Gates could do it, why can't you? But friends, as I told you at the beginning of the video, there's a twist in our story. What is it? It is the twist of privilege. How privileged was Bill Gates? Let me explain what I mean in points. Even if you had the same talent and work ethic, you might not have reached his level without some key privileges. The hidden advantages. Bill Gates being a woman in the 1960s. The significant gender discrimination in the USA would he face? Did you know that back in the 1960s, banks could actually refuse to give a credit card to a woman? Even if she was married, banks often required her husband's signature before approving her request. And in many states, women weren't allowed to serve on juries. One Florida law even got a nod from the Supreme Court in 1961 to keep them off juries. Birth control pills weren't available for women until a landmark decision in 1972 finally opened that door. In 1963, Kennedy's Commission on the Status of Women revealed a harsh truth. For every dollar a man earned, a woman making the same job would only get about 59 cents. It wasn't until 1964 that laws were passed to curb this kind of gender discrimination. Education was far from equal too. During the 1960s, almost every Ivy League school was off-limits to women. For instance, Harvard didn't even allow women in its library until 1967, and by 1977, the male-to-female ratio was roughly 4-to-1, meaning women had to be 4 times as exceptional just to get in. Harvard even had a separate sister school, Radcliffe College, which didn't offer the same perks as Harvard. Radcliffe wasn't fully merged into Harvard until 1999, and if Bill Gates had been black, his path might have been very different. Before the Civil Rights Act of 1964, African Americans were often barred from restaurants, movie theaters, churches, and schools. They even had to sit in designated sections on buses, and in many southern states, they couldn't vote at all. In 1968, while Bill Gates and Paul Allen were busy tinkering with computers at the Computer Center Corporation, history was unfolding around them. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, a tragic moment that underscored the intense struggle for black rights during that era. The 1960s were marked by frequent protests and riots over racial discrimination, highlighting a time when many talented people were held back simply because of the color of their skin. Now, imagine if Bill had been born in a different place. Bill and Paul were lucky to grow up in Seattle, a developed tech-forward city in a developed country. Had Bill been born in a country like Pakistan, he might not have even seen a computer until his 30s, because mass adoption of computers there only really kicked off after 1985. Even within the US, not every city was as advanced as Seattle. This was the very city where groundbreaking innovations like the programming language BASIC were born, and where one of the first commercial computer systems was available. But it wasn't just geography that worked in their favor. Bill and Paul attended Lakeside School, a top-notch private institution that not only provided a high-quality education, but also gave them access to early computer technology, a luxury that most middle-class kids never experienced. When Bill first encountered a computer in 1965, there were only about 22,000 computers in America for a population of 200 million. That kind of access set them way ahead from the start. Family connections. Paul Allen's father, Ken, served as the associate director at the University of Washington Library, giving Paul easy access to valuable resources on computing. Similarly, Bill Gates' parents were involved in the governance of the university, and when the CCC store went bankrupt, their help secured Bill and Paul access to the Graduate Computing Center at Roberts Hall, where they even saw their first computer game. It's not a criticism of nepotism. Every parent wants to support their kids. Later on, Paul even built a library and computer center in honor of his father, while Bill Gates' father was a lawyer. So, Bill benefited from his father's legal expertise to help navigate the complex world of business and registration for Microsoft. Another important point is that not everyone can afford to drop out of college. Bill and Paul could take that risk because they had the safety net of family wealth. Consider Monty Davidoff, for instance. When Bill and Paul were developing Altair Basic, Monty was a key contributor. Yet when offered a permanent position at Microsoft, he chose to continue his education because his family couldn't afford to take such a big risk. The major turning point for Microsoft was when they got the contract from IBM. Till then, Microsoft was just a small company. But how did they get this contract? Here's the interesting part. IBM's chairman at the time, John Opel, was also on the board of United Way, where Bill Gates' mother, Mary Maxwell Gates, served as a member. She mentioned Microsoft to him, and because IBM was struggling to reach an agreement with the larger competitor Digital Research, Opel decided to give Microsoft a chance. That contract was a game changer, even though Microsoft didn't even have any software ready to sell at the time. They ended up buying a QDOS operating system from a company called Seattle Computer Products, tweaking it a bit and renaming it MS-DOS, which would go on to become wildly popular. But anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that these points were the privileges that Bill Gates and Paul Allen had, due to which they could be so successful. Even with plenty of talent and hard work, Gates might not have reached the same heights without these extra privileges. Many people overlook this fact, what some call privilege blindness. We all start life with certain advantages. Our backgrounds, where we're born, our family's status, even our religion or caste, all play a role in shaping our starting line. For example, Bill Gates was born into a supportive environment in Seattle, while someone born in a place like Pakistan back then might never have had the chance to even see a computer until much later. Today, the world has changed. America now enjoys higher racial and gender equality, and Harvard has more female students than it used to. But even now, different kinds of privileges still exist. Think about nepotism in Asian companies, or when politicians' children become politicians. Children of the powerful often get a head start that others don't. Growing up in a developed city, in a stable environment with plenty of resources, can be a huge advantage. I'm not saying that someone with these advantages should lose them, but it's important they recognize what they've had. We shouldn't be blind to our advantages. Look around and think, in your life or career, what privileges helped you get where you are? Sure, talent and hard work are essential, but on ignoring these factors, what were the privileges in your life that helped you reach where you are in your career? Some folks point to examples like Oprah Winfrey or Barack Obama to claim anyone can rise from nothing if they work hard enough. But those are exceptions. They had to overcome huge obstacles, and their success isn't the norm. Saying things like, if Oprah could get rich, poverty is just a state of mind. Or, if Barack Obama could become president, there's no racism, completely oversimplifies the issue. It ignores the everyday barriers that many still face. We all have different starting lines based on our background, family, and even where we were born. Acknowledging our privileges is the first step toward understanding and addressing the inequalities in our society. If you like this video, please check out my other videos. I'd love to hear from you. What privileges or advantages helped shape your journey? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and also subscribe my channel. Thanks for watching, mate. Bye.